Every single Dire Wraith on Earth gathers in the sky over a city and creates a star disk that pierces the sun and creates a black spot upon it that begins to spread out. The purpose of this is the World Merge, a spell that will absorb the sun and make it merge with the black sun of the Dark Nebula. In turn, Wraith World will merge with Earth, destroying all life upon it, but making it more than habitable for the Wraiths. It's their final gambit. All the remaining Wraiths on Earth have retreated to wait it out. Their only hope now is ROM's neutralizer. Earth needs more, lots more neutralizers, and all of Earth's super beings to wield them. Unfortunately, while ROM is willing now to let them duplicate it, it's just too advanced for them. Over in the X-Men books, one person was able to build a neutralizer, the cyborg Forge. Unfortunately, resident Marvel douchebag Henry Peter Gyrick used the neutralizer on Storm, her powers are lost for a few years actually, and thus Forge refuses to trust the weapon in the hands of the government. Wait a second, the government did something immoral? What a shocker, Forge! Where the hell have you been for the last forever? ROM goes to Forge directly to ask for his help, but he still refuses, fearing its use in the wrong hands. ROM is optimistic about human nature and the inherent goodness of people, but Forge is more cynical about it. However, when Dire Wraiths attack outside his base to try and lure him out, ROM shows him the folly of denying help to humanity, and he swears to assist. However, instead of arming as many as they can with neutralizers, they instead make the next most rational plan. Build a single giant neutralizer in space. Brandy, meanwhile, soon learns to embrace her humanity again alongside Rick Jones when she offers comfort to Cindy and sees her as her new family. Cindy's own parents were killed by the Wraiths. The hope is to use the neutralizer to rid the Earth of all remaining Wraith activity and cancel out their spell. However, the Dire Wraiths soon manage to freeze ROM before he can use his power to activate the neutralizer. The final battle for Earth comes in issue 65. In a ruined city, the Dire Wraiths gather around the frozen ROM, taunting him of his failure, of the end of the world, and how he stands alone against them. They are soon proven wrong. The heroes of Earth would never surrender their world without a fight! Yes, it seems Rick Jones and Brandy put out a distress call for the heroes of Earth to come to ROM's aid, and they all answered. And that, everyone, is why it's nice to be a professional sidekick sometimes. You make so many friends. And like with the Technus imperative, we see that an event doesn't need to have the death of characters in order to show how serious the situation is or to cause drama. ROM is not an event comic. Hell, it's a toy licensed comic for a toy that wasn't even being sold anymore. And yet, after 65 issues of ROM fighting alone, the stakes growing larger and larger, seeing the threat the Wraiths bring firsthand and the fate of the world unclear, we can see in this story something more awesome and glorious than half the big crossover event comics where heroes are slaughtered for no good reason, or heroes fighting each other, or the dark, dreary depression that comes with some of those tales. The superheroes of the Marvel Universe stand alongside ROM and fight a great evil. We're invested in these characters after everything they've been through. Emotional connection, a difficult journey, and a triumphant finale. That's all you need. Brandy frees ROM by kissing him. Okay, having a few less idiotic tropes would be nice too, but this is still awesome. Well, I say the kiss frees him, but the narration makes it clear it could have also been the Dire Wraiths weakening due to the heroes attacking. ROM flies up and powers the neutralizer, firing instead upon the approaching Wraith World. Wraith World is banished by the power of the neutralizer and, as I said last time, is also the source of the Wraiths' magic. Without their sorcery, the Dire Wraiths are now trapped on Earth and unable to change form, and thus no match for the heroes. All the remaining Wraiths are banished by ROM in the following issue, ending their threat once and for all. Except for all those Wraiths on other worlds who now find themselves in a very embarrassing predicament. Well, sucks to be you guys! The assembled superheroes go their separate ways, declaring ROM savior of the Earth for all he's done. Although, much like in Man of Steel, calling him a savior while there's smoking ruins in the distance is kind of iffy. From here, ROM wants to leave since his job is done. Brandy begs him to stay and continue defending the Earth from threats, but he says he couldn't be happy here without his humanity to truly enjoy it. Brandy is distraught by losing her family and doesn't want to lose ROM too, but ROM reminds her that she's kinda started to get close to Rick Jones and Cindy, so maybe she could settle with him. You're gonna make me sing Love the One You're With again, aren't you? And so ROM heads out into the infinity of space to explore. So, story over, right? Well, no, because we have 9 issues left and another annual. The next 2 issues are standalones that you could easily see as part of a sci-fi anthology or the like. The first about a world of sleepers who can only come out briefly to enjoy their world a day at a time before it becomes uninhabitable for long periods. Then the other about a war between humans and machines that ends with both sides utterly destroyed. Issue 69 has ROM encounter Ego, the living planet. What? Of course there's a living planet with a face and a mustache on it. That's just science right there. However, 2 of ROM's fellow Space Knights have been taken by Ego, who aims to devour them, but fortunately ROM rescues them. After that, they detect another Space Knight, Unam, who managed to use his invisibility power to enslave a large group of Dire Wraiths. Initially, it was just a joke, a way for him to strike at the Wraiths in secret due to their large numbers, but soon he went power mad. The 3 Space Knights at first decide to abandon him and believe him broken by all of this, but he begs to come with them to try to atone for what happened. Back on Earth, Rick has terrible pains due to his cancer, but somehow Brandy is able to dispel his pain through a glowing touch she can't explain. It seems Unam isn't the only one who went mad with power. Another Space Knight, Rack, pursued Dire Wraiths to another world and defeated them so many times that he enslaved them and turned them into his own force to conquer the rest of the world. The Space Knights go to fight him, but Unam sacrifices himself to save ROM, forcing ROM to banish Rack to Limbo alongside the Wraiths. But let's head back over to Earth. Now, you might assume, given that healing that seemed to occur with Brandy, that her Starshine powers remained, and where we were heading was her curing his cancer and deciding to head off into space to find ROM or something. Well, that's because you guys actually put some proper thought into this. No. They get all their problems solved through Deus Ex Machina. I am not kidding. You know how I mentioned Secret Wars before? Well, there was a sequel to that event, aptly titled Secret Wars 2. I've mentioned it once before, and I do want to do a proper review of it sometime because it is not very good, but obviously that time is not now. Basically, the Beyonder, the all-powerful being from the first Secret Wars, decides he's curious about humanity and heads to Earth to learn how to pee. Again, I'm not even kidding. Also, he dresses like this. I thought Blake 7 was the best example of 70s fashion in the 80s. The point is that in his travels, he comes across Rick, Brandy, and Cindy and offers to grant them their greatest desires. Long story short, Rick's cancer is cured, Cindy's parents are brought back to life by going into limbo and retrieving their souls or whatever from the Dire Wraiths that had taken them, and Brandy is teleported by the Beyonder to Galador so she can be beside ROM. But before we arrive on Galador, let's cover the final annual real quick. Another Space Knight finds himself dead and in the hands of the Shi'ar, those aliens that often encounter the X-Men. A doctor decides to use the armor for himself to combat the Shi'ar since he's sick of their rule over his people. ROM and the remaining Space Knights encounter the Shi'ar, including Gladiator, who is no doubt on his way to punch the Enterprise, and after a lot of fighting, they team up to discover what happened to the Space Knight armor that was stolen. They eventually defeat the guy, and he dies, and monologues are given about freedom and oppression and whatnot, but the ultimate point is that Gladiator, touched by what has occurred, uses a Stargate to send the Space Knights back to Galador. Speaking of, Brandy arrives on Galador to a happy field full of bunnies and flowers and ruined cities and green meadows and seagulls and... wait. Yeah, seems a few things have happened in the last 50 issues or so. Brandy is soon attacked by, of all things, a Space Knight, who makes it clear that he's going to murder her. Brandy even wonders if ROM had been lying about everything he had said about Galador this whole time. Okay, Brandy, I know you're upset, but you friggin' fought a war alongside him against aliens who murdered your entire family. I think maybe you should get the whole story first. She finds the skeleton of an Angel Elite and its weapon, a Horn of Heaven. And indeed, the sonic vibrations from her friggin' battle trumpet disrupt the Space Knight circuitry. Plus, I'm also pretty sure she summoned Gondor. Humans emerge from the ground and kill the Space Knight, taking Brandy down into the underground with them. They compare notes, and we learn what happened. After Galactus sent Galador off to wherever, the citizens of Galador realized that without the Space Knights, they were virtually defenseless. They put out a call for a new generation of Space Knights, but this group sacrificed pretty much all of their humanity to be even more formidable in combat. However, since no enemies ever came, the new Space Knights grew corrupt with their power. When the new Prime Director ordered them to reclaim their humanity, they killed him and seized power for themselves. The human population was decimated, and the survivors fled underground to continue the fight. The few Space Knights who have returned since then were easily killed by them. Brandy declares she's going to work alongside them to fight the evil Space Knights, suggesting that they'd have a bargaining chip if they stole their human remains away. Why would they care? They clearly are all too happy to be evil cyborgs with superior strength and firepower. They manage to storm the cryogenic chamber, and Brandy makes the threat against the Space Knights. ROM and his party then teleport right inside of that same chamber. Welcome to Plot Convenience Playhouse! And the second-generation Space Knights declare that, indeed, they don't care about their humanity and destroy the cryogenic chambers with their own weapons. The evil Knights offer the returning Space Knights a chance to join them, or die! Well, clearly this is an epic cliffhanger with such a huge dilemma. I wonder how ROM and the other Space Knights, who have dreamt of nothing else but returning home and living in peace as humans for 200 friggin' years, will respond to such a thing. I bet they'll join them. Yeah, it goes about as well as you'd think. The other Space Knights immediately attack. Brandy tells ROM to kill them now that they've got their chance. How is it, woman of Earth, that you can have known me so long, and yet not have known me at all? I am ROM, whom others have called greatest of the Space Knights. I do not kill, not even killers! Bull crap! While I love this series, it pisses me off beyond belief that ROM keeps declaring how not a killer he is when we have seen multiple times that he has not only killed, but he's also declared a willingness to kill. The frustration comes from the fact that ROM had one writer, just one. Bill Mantlo wrote the entire series. How can you forget your own continuity so easily? This book repeated over and over and over in almost every issue the backstory between ROM and the Dire Wraiths, but can't remember what happened a few issues ago concerning whether ROM is killed or not? Ugh, but whatever, this book is still awesome. ROM uses his neutralizer to repel the evil knights, but upon realizing that he won't kill them, they turn their power against him. The combined forces of the human Galadorians and the Space Knights put in a good fight, but ultimately all the human Galadorians are killed and the knights forced to flee with Brandy. The evil knights return to their dark tower to confide with their leader, Dominor. Dominor's pissed about them destroying the cryogenic chamber, but he really can't argue with them when they say they don't want to go back to being humans anyway. They even suggest destroying Galador itself, since it was more suited for humans to live in than they as Space Knights. What exactly is ideal for you guys now? Does it really matter if you sit on a rock or a comfy chair? Our heroes detect another group of first-generation Space Knights seeking out Galador, and ROM wants to contact them, get them to join up and fight the evil knights, but the others figure there's nothing to fight for without their humanity. Brandy finally explodes about all of this, that they only seem to be willing to fight for personal reward, as opposed to just fighting for honor and peace and goodness. It isn't a great speech, but still better than Ant-Man's.
We few. We happy few. We band of buggers.
The knights head off to the Dark Tower to launch a surprise attack and use the communication equipment there to signal the knights in space, while Brandy remains behind to seek out some equipment to help them in the coming battle.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!
The knights arrive, and once again we get ROM talking about discarding honor after all the crap they've been through. After we just had a speech about their honor! Of course. Anyway, the knights go off to make the signal and distract their evil counterparts, while ROM heads off to confront Dominor himself. Greetings, ROM. Once I learned that you had returned to Galador, I knew you and I would have to meet. And soon. Although, could we wait on this? I have had a long day and I was just now sitting down to watch TV. Dominor tells Rom that he might want to rethink killing him. He explains that he had had thoughts of this genocide even before becoming a Space Knight, that he thought their race had grown soft and weak. His plan was to repopulate the people using the stored genetic stock in the cryogenic chambers, though obviously that plan has the kibosh put on it now. Dominor says his humanity still remains somewhere hidden, and he wants Brandy now to be his mate to repopulate the species. Yeah, good luck with the genetic diversity there, you cone-eared weirdo! The other evil knights arrive, and Dominor challenges Rom to a final duel, leading us to the 75th issue, and the end of the Spaceknights saga. The duel begins, and Rom considers throwing the fight and letting Dominor get away with all this crap, though judging by how the battle is going, he may not have to. Dominor's weapons are indeed superior and injure Rom like he never has before, cutting through his armor easily and destabilizing his circuitry. However, in the end, Rom decides death before dishonor, putting up a proper fight in spite of everything. The other members of Rom's party are quickly defeated, though they are able to get the signal off to the knights in space. Hey Steve, I just got this signal from Galador. Oh god, it burns. Why? You probably just picked up an old reality show broadcast. Meanwhile, Brandy fails to find any weapons, but instead locates some kind of museum, along with a wall that's glowing. Inside of the wall, she finds the tomb of Terminator, still in the duplicate Rom's body. Dominor, during the fight, shoves another Space Knight into the fray to distract Rom, but this pisses off the other Space Knights, who do have their own code of honor, just a different one? In this case, bringing in a third party to their duel shows Dominor to be a coward, and thus they reveal their ultimate power. Since the second generation was made to be superior to Rom's, they were given the ability to act in concert to eradicate entire planets that threatened Galador's existence. Yet again, I question this so-called philosophy of Galador's about respecting life and crap. Are you sure you didn't just mean the sanctity of tube socks or something? Unfortunately for them, it turns out that whole planet-busting ability was a big ruse. Dominor put that in as a failsafe in case they ever turned against him. All the other second-generation Space Knights just explode along with the tower. Whoops. Dominor suggests that they cease fighting and just work to rebuild their world, but Rom is just curious where the hell he stored his humanity so that the others wouldn't find it. The blind fools! It was right before their eyes, preserved in the base of my glowing throne! He means his toilet. Unfortunately, it seems that his throne and his body were destroyed in the explosion. Again. Whoops. With his dreams dashed, Dominor attacks Rom and demands he summon his neutralizer. He does so, and Dominor kills himself with it, unable to live without his dreams of rebuilding Galador. Brandy arrives with the remaining Space Knights, and a sphere containing Rom's humanity from Terminator's body. I had thought that my humanity died with Terminator when he was struck down by Galactus, but if it still exists... Wait, nobody bothered to check? How the hell did Terminator die then? And apparently it's really easy to reclaim your humanity. No surgery or anything needed. Rom just reaches out and touches the glowing ball containing his humanity, returning him to his human state. Rom and Brandy will try to repopulate the planet. Yeah, good luck with that, guys. Did none of you stop and think that just because you look human doesn't mean you guys are actually compatible? And the other Space Knights are A-okay with not getting their humanity back. They just want to defend their world to the best of their ability. Makes it easy! Also, were Rom's clothes in that sphere too? Weird. And so, ROM Spaceknight ends with Brandy and Rom walking off to repopulate the species. No doubt those bunnies in the corner symbolizing what's going to be happening soon. Despite a bunch of logical hiccups throughout the series, and in particular the ending, ROM Spaceknight is fantastic. Personally, while I enjoyed the idea of the second-generation Space Knights, I'm disappointed by Dominor as the final boss. I was expecting him to be revealed as someone else, but it never came. Personally, if I had written it, I would have made him turn out to be hybrid, having reconstituted on Galador instead of Earth. Dominor's eugenics and genocide talk matched up with hybrids anyway, and you could argue he figured becoming a Space Knight would make him superior to ROM, but that's just me. Now, before all of you go off seeking out trades and digital issues in Marvel's store of ROM, here comes the bad news. You won't find any issues of ROM, despite his importance to the Marvel Universe. Here's the deal. After ROM ended, Marvel never renewed the licensing agreement with Parker Brothers. And they still haven't. No one is entirely sure why no deal has been arranged, but Hasbro did file a trademark on the character in 2012, which led many to think he might be returning, but nothing has come so far aside from a little collector's toy. In addition, James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, said that he wanted to bring ROM into the film too, but couldn't because of the legal problems. So if Marvel can't reprint ROM, why do I keep saying he's so important to the Marvel Universe? Wouldn't the creators just have ignored everything that happened in his book to avoid legal trouble from Parker Brothers or whatever? Well, here's the thing. Parker Brothers may own ROM, but they only own ROM. Remember, Parker Brothers had nothing to go on with ROM, just a robot toy with some vague descriptions of his accessories. Everything else about the character, his mythology, his supporting cast, the other Space Knights, the Dire Wraiths, everything about ROM that made him ROM was created by Bill Mantlo, who worked for Marvel. Thus, despite the fact that the comic was produced under a license, everything they created in the book, save for ROM himself, is owned by Marvel. And as such, the Space Knights and the Dire Wraiths have appeared multiple times in Marvel cosmic books. There was even a miniseries in 2000 about the Space Knights featuring ROM's two kids. Although the planet's population was fully restored in that, so who knows. Galador did have other colony planets under its sphere of influence, so maybe a bunch of people moved back and helped rebuild. Ultimately, the triumph of ROM is in telling an epic space opera in 75 issues that touched on all too human themes of compassion, war, revenge, and what it truly means to be human. Regardless of my snark and my frustrations with the final arc and how rushed it felt, ROM's quest for peace will always live on. Let's hope that someday, Marvel will be able to clear the legal issues and bring back the Wraith Slayer, the Silver Space Knight, and the greatest of his kind, ROM. Next week, we bring ourselves back full circle. For if ROM's toy was initially inspired by Star Wars, why don't we look back at how Star Wars itself began in The Star Wars #1? See you then. Hell, they even gave Cindy a gun. Now that's dedication to your fight for freedom, when you hand the 10-year-old a gun.